Yeah, so we've just done 10 minutes and I've realised on my new phone that I wasn't recording. So today I'm very lucky to have an amazing guest and someone that I think played a far greater role in my life than she's aware of. A really amazing teacher, kind teacher, and someone that saw the good in everyone, which I think is a massive quality in any human being. But I'm going to introduce you to this amazing woman, Miss Mulcahy, Grainne Mulcahy.
Grainne, how are you doing?
Right, so I apologise. So we were talking for ages there about your journey so far to where you've got to as an educator, and I stupidly, being so smart, hadn't even got record pressed.
You're all right. You're all right. We're none of us geniuses.
No.
We do our best. But that's I suppose I was never a natural student, and it was because I struggled, and I still struggle with spelling. The kids will know when I'm tired. You know, I'll make a hymns on the board.
Would I?
Oh yeah, I'd be doing my D's and my G's. I'm well dyslexic. There's no
So as you get drained, that'll come.
when you get tired,
Yeah.
I make mistakes on the board, and they'd see it. But I just say, look, lads, that's life.
Yeah.
You know? And I think, to be honest, it's what makes me good at what I do. Because an awful lot of clever people get to be teachers.
Yeah.
But maybe they don't understand what people don't understand.
Right.
And I think
Lovely.
that's been my only strength as a maths teacher, is I never got maths. Now, I was very lucky. Noreen Ryan was my neighbour.
Right.
And when I ended up having to teach maths, I went over to her in a fierce panic. I said, what am I going to do? And she gave me huge help. Like, she'd be one of the people that has inspired me in teaching.
Right.
She'd be a very straightforward teacher. But like, she said to me, you know, you can skip these bits, but this bits they won't know and they won't understand that. And because I'd struggled so much with learning myself,
Yeah.
I understand why they don't understand. So we can do it again and do it again. And trying it is the important thing, not necessarily succeeding.
Well, just because I was completely unaware of your journey as well. I think if I was to get you to list everything you have now, we'd be here till, well, I have record press, so it's okay, we can do it. But I think if you tell us a little bit about how you got into education, how you got into college, which was fascinating, and your difficulties with that. So I think if everyone, I'd love to hear it again, and on record this time.
So I did a leaving cert in 84, and I'd struggled all through school with spelling. So Dad got me assessed back then, and I was assessed as quite profoundly dyslexic. And I turned things around. So I changed B's and D's and G's and all those.
Yeah.
But I do with numbers as well. So anyone who knows me will know that if I've given them a number for my phone, probably give it backwards.
Right.
And if I've given you directions to the house, they're probably the other way around.
Right.
So people who know me know that about me. So my dad, who was a very practical man, found minute theology, because you could do it with an interview. So chatting and talking have always been good. He was big into drama for years. So I've been going to plays with him for years. So I was good at talking. So I got the place in Minute, and it was biology, theology and sociology. Biology, because it was the only other subject I was good at.
Right.
In fact, it was the only subject I was good at. And sociology, we thought we'd manage. And the theology was the deal. I had to take that. And it's not because I was very religious in any way. Like, people often think, you've only been a nun doing theology. But actually, the three things have been the cornerstone of my life. The biology in the natural world is everything to me. It's how I learned life, and the connectedness of everything, and the importance of even the smallest. Like, if we look at the bank there, the smallest bit of moss is holding the next bit of grain of sand, that's holding enough for the grass to grow, that's holding enough for the trees to grow, that's holding enough
Everything
for
has a purpose.
So it's the smallest living things that matter. So the biology was huge. The sociology on how people think, how communities think, how the world ticks over in terms of anthropology, all of that was just like manna from heaven for me. Um, and
We
because
can
of
hear it,
Tony
Jim.
Bazan, he's the guy who invented mind mapping. He gave me, my dad was worried about me going to college. He felt I'd have trouble reading all the material.
Yeah.
So,
And was that a struggle?
yeah, I would never have read for fun because
Right.
reading was never fun for me. And the program the other night on being hammered in primary school, we used to get hammered for every spelling we'd wrong.
Right.
So it wasn't fun, do you know?
No. My brother is dyslexic, so, and like that, he would have finished school in 97 probably.
Yeah.
So it was a different time as well. It was a harder time.
And you know, like again, it was to get on with it. So the strategy there was I was a good speaker.
Yeah.
So if I got in early, I'd be reading out the piece that everyone else would be writing down.
Oh,
So that's what I did.
yeah.
And I think that's the thing that I learned is there are ways of managing things,
Yeah.
and it has to be your way.
No, but I think for anybody listening, that is like, because come here, we spoke on the way up to the beach about how hard it is for some people to go to school and how hard people, like I for one, school wasn't for me. You were amazing for me in school, but school wasn't for me. Like I've said it a lot of times, I was a teenage alcoholic, but I suppose I drank to mask a lot of other things, still do at times. So I'm on a break from it at the minute because I know I have a thing in my life, and I'm not sure if you taught me this, but if something doesn't serve you, there's no point in doing it. So I'm taking a step back away from it, and I think it'll help me decision making process probably a little bit better. But I found, like, even down to talking a minute ago, like some young people are really, really struggling at getting into school and going in. And then COVID, I think, had a massive impact on that social anxiety and trying to get them through a door even.
He isolated you.
Yeah.
And like, it's not easy to walk into a group of people every day.
Yeah.
And one of the things with not being in school is when you miss a day, then you come in the next day and you didn't know what they did.
Yeah.
So you're feeling a little bit more behind.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you get, and the mountain gets harder to climb.
Right.
But I think youngsters are much harder on themselves. And I think in our day, we didn't think much about things. You got on the roller coaster and it just went.
Yeah.
So like I left school, you go to college, you finish college, you go to a job. No one asks how you're doing. You don't have the time to be thinking. Whereas now there's so much on social media, oh, this person's doing that and this. And I suppose the falseness of all these wonderful lives that are coming at you, but you don't know that they're not.
No,
real.
and like that, and this is why, so I absolutely, despite the fact that this is a YouTube page and I've my MBK has an Instagram page, I've my own Instagram page, I absolutely despise social media because I'm seeing it in work every day, the damage that it does.
Yeah.
But I think there is good elements to it. And young people unfortunately do latch onto it a little bit. But like we talked about the 5 pillars of well-being, and I think that connecting, and this is something that you, even I'd say, I don't know if you had the course done at that stage, but you've always had this connection with your students that you would notice things. I don't know if you were psychic. Are you psychic? I'm not sure, right? But like, to give you an example, I remember I had Miss Grainne Mulcahy for the first 3 classes every Monday morning, and in 5th and 6th year I had double ag science and religion, and I'm from a housing estate in Willow Park. The only time we were ever on farms was robbing tires for the bonfire. So genuinely, like, ag science, we were told was a pass, and I'll never forget, I go in of a Monday morning dying, hungover. I used to get paid of a Sunday in the Fowler, and I'd have been playing soccer. I was playing adult sport from 16, so I'd have went out with the lads. I'd have met you probably in Browns at the time.
You probably would have.
And I remember you used to hit me a clip on the back of the head and just said, put your head down, because if any other teacher sees you, you're going to be expelled. So I got through the first 3 classes, but I always think I sort of woke up for religion, because we probably have that in common that we both find something in it.
I suppose again we've talked about what we get from parents. Mum was an extremely spiritual woman. I
Yeah.
wouldn't call her very religious.
Yeah.
Connemara women.
Yeah.
Do you know that they're connected to the nature? They're connected to God that's in the world around them. They kind of adopted the Catholic structure of it. So mom would say, I still do. I say my rosary every morning coming
Yeah.
into school. And I have, my friends joke with me, they say, put me on a bead there this morning, will you?
Yeah.
You're going through the rosary. So I kind of allot people beads.
Yeah.
And I do. I pray for everyone I'm going into work with. I pray that people will be better from having met me today.
Yeah.
And that
Was
keeps me on the straight and narrow when I
Well,
start
and
to be grumpy.
I can assure you of this, and I know because sometimes we're very slow to clap ourselves on the back. But you are definitely someone that has kept so many people above the ground that you wouldn't be aware of, and your kindness alone for that, and even down to what you've just said about like that someone's day will be better because they meet you. I will be confident that everyone's day is better when they meet
Well,
you.
not every day.
Not every day. Your children might completely disagree with me.
And I think that's funny. I was thinking about you. Your children see you very differently to others. Like I'd have been a tough mammy,
Yeah.
and mine would say I was very strict mammy, and I wouldn't argue it was. But then I look at the independent people they are now, and I think,
It was
but
a
now
good.
I think too, you're hard on yourself when your kids are. It's tough, you know that having small ones is
Yeah.
tough, and mine are like steps of stairs. There's 2 years between each of them. So when the eldest one was 4, the little one
Okay.
was there, and we were looking after grandparents and all at the time, and I think I noticed it even with people I work with, like for a time when you have babies, you lose yourself.
Yeah.
And I used to say, I want to put a sign up that says, Grainne's still in here. I'm not just the mammy, the cleaner, the cook, the go-getter. That
Yeah.
there is the
A
person
human there.
who
Yeah.
had all her dreams and hopes. She still wants to look fine going out to Browns. But like she's got baby sick and she's got no sleep for the last couple of nights because when you have 3 of them, there's always one of them away.
Yeah.
And I think young mums don't know that. We see the picture of being mammy is going to be all, but being a parent is tough.
It is, but it is the greatest honor.
Oh, it's precious, and I
Unbelievable,
think, but when when you're going through stuff, you don't always see that.
No, it's very hard.
And I think the other thing is the keeping the one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
And one of the things mammies lose when they have a lot of small children is they lose connection with people. Because a lot of your mates don't want to visit you when you have small children.
Yeah.
Do you know?
No,
and if
no,
you have mates who've been through that, I was late to the party. I was late to the party on Everton.
Yeah.
I was late to the party on being a mum. So most of mine have grown up kids.
Yes, we're sort of caught in the same, myself and Neve, Neve and I. We were in our mid-30s, I suppose, when the little man arrived. Well, early to mid-30s. And like what you say, a lot of the people you're close with, your friend group, their kids they either don't have kids or their kids are rare.
Yeah.
Are not rare, but they're up around 12, 13 where they're managing things on their own. And you end up sort of detached from that as well.
You do. And I suppose you're very critical of yourself because other people's children seem to sleep. And other children's, and you seem to, and who do you knock when there's no one else there but yourself, you know? And I think, one of the things we're short on doing is sharing the tough times. There's a couple of friends of mine with young children and they say, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
Why didn't you? I said, no, to put you off. But we need to tell each other when things are tough.
Well, MJ, when you watch this back, right, when you're older, as it stands right now, you're 7 and you have not slept a full night still, and you've not slept on your own still. So we're very fond of you. We love you to bits, but that is it is. But it's probably our fault as well from a comfort thing. Like when we were working shift work, we used to take it in turns that one had sleeping to make sure the other person got sleep.
Well, when we were getting engaged, we got engaged and we were going to get married. My dad took us aside for the very serious chat.
Right.
And he says, I'm going to say something to you now and I want your promise on it. And poor John was thinking, dear Jesus,
what's coming now?
What's coming now? And he says, I want you to promise that if they ever try to come into the bed with you, that you'll let them in and you'll not send them back. Ever.
Right. So,
So that was it.
yeah.
So we would have done the same. We would have, because the time comes when they move on to their
Yeah, and
own.
they don't want to be
And they
in the
don't want to
video.
be near you.
Yeah.
So it was it was the heart of what Daddy wanted us to be as
Yeah.
a family, and it was a weird thing for him to be asking.
Yeah.
I think John's probably still going, "Dear God, what's wrong with that man?" But like again, you do what works for your family,
Yeah.
and I don't think you're ever going to be sorry for making space for your children. And you're hoping, or you're all listening, that we'll get it back at the end.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think again, there's an awful lot of these rules and regulations. Whose rules are they? Who says you shouldn't have your
Yeah.
kids with you?
And every child is different,
And every child
and every
needs-
family
yeah.
is different, and yeah,
And because I'm doing the reproduction in sixth year with the students, I'd still talk to them about, you have to make it your own life.
Yeah.
So they tell you to breastfeed. If it works for you, it works for you. But it might not. Don't panic.
yeah,
Like they'll tell you, people will have all kinds of advice about how you should put your baby to sleep and when you should put your baby, what you should be. You have to have. You have
I think
to
people
trust.
work it out as
You
you're
work
going.
it out.
and
There's
work
there's
what's
no
best
book.
for you.
There's no guidebook
Yeah.
for that. And the same thing with the brain. I suppose that's why I was interested in the brain. Nobody gives you a guidebook for your brain.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't until Bazan explained that its memory is like hangers in your head, that you have to know where you've hung it. And if you hang similar things together, it's like if you put all your jackets together in the wardrobe and all your pants somewhere else and all your coats somewhere else. But your learning and your memories is the same.
Yeah.
So if you put similar stuff together, you pull it out of your head together. And that made sense. That got me through college without a doubt.
And just so I wasn't aware how dyslexic you are, but just maybe tell people what your how many qualifications. I can't list them, to be honest with you. She has that many.
Well, out of badness. And again, it was just practical. I wanted, I did a master's in chaplaincy.
Right.
But then that's the spirituality bit kicking back in. I really, really believe that there is a little part of your life you have to nurture. And some of us call it God or religion, or we go to church or something. But I just think of it as that little candle, that little light that you protect from the wind.
Faith, I
That
believe
faith
it,
thing.
yeah.
And I think if you don't nurture that, because what else have you when everything else is stripped away from you? I think we were a lucky generation because you always had the emergency prayer.
Yeah.
Do you know, before an exam you could
Yeah,
nip
yeah.
in and light a candle. And it was still, even I suppose in the depths of things, the worst days of my life would have been losing my parents. There was people who'd said, "I'll say a prayer for you, Grainne."
Yeah.
And
You got faith or got something
yeah,
from that.
but despite there being nothing and life being so desolate, there was still that little bit of something that was there. So I think, chaplaincy was hugely important for me. But it also, because I wasn't great in college, I only got a pass degree.
Right.
And I was lucky to get that. I was lucky to get my teaching qualification. I had to be separately supervised for that in case I'd warp any minds with my dyslexia. But I was fine. And that was the only thing I excelled in, was the actual practical.
Right.
And that was in the inner city in Dublin, and I loved it.
Whereabouts in Dublin?
I was up in the Black Pits, up in Warrenmouth.
Oh, right.
There was a convent there. There were gas tickets. I thought it was near the bus route.
Yeah.
I didn't realise when nobody was going there until I got there.
Oh.
And it was a difficult spot, but it was, they were, again, my mother kicks in, everybody is who they are.
Yeah, and there's characters up there.
There
I have
were.
a lot of inner city
Yeah.
friends, and they're amazing people. Like,
And they're like the Connemara, they're earthy people. And they do you know what, the other thing with them, they take you as you are. They look at the person, they don't look at the outside bits, or whether you've got the Gucci bag, or
Yeah.
and I think that was one of the things that I really liked there, and it did me power good. I went from there to a really small convent in Tipperary, and I got through me work in the first 4 minutes of class, and I was thinking,
what am I doing now?
God.
Well, I'd say that's where, like, you're very. Remembering back, like, there was Stephen Ryan, Damien Reynolds, Kieran Kenny, and myself. Genuinely, none of us had any interest in ag science. Well, Kieran probably did, I suppose. But yeah, we annoyed Kieran actually more to the point. But I'll never forget doing a farm visit at your house. Do you remember this? And
Nowhere else I could bring you.
I know. So we went to a farm visit to your house. It was an important enough thing, I think. But I think you hit me a box in the arm, and you gave me the key to your house, and you said, "Go in, put on Sky Sports News, sit down, make yourself and Damien a cup of coffee, because she's ruining this for the rest of the people. You fucking need, just get out of here. And like, I'll never forget that. And I know it's probably, that's definitely not a textbook teaching thing, but you had that, like, where you just, yeah, I just found, your kindness is something that has always stuck with me, and that personable bit, like,
Brené Brown says a great thing. She's a researcher on happiness. She's brilliant. But she says, you know, you have to come to people with the notion that everybody is doing the best they can.
yeah,
Now, whatever that level is, but if you've nothing to lose by thinking this is and you know, nobody's at their best every day. And if school isn't really for you, you're not at your best a lot of days.
yeah. I don't know, high performance coaching thing, and that what you've just said there is very similar to it. Like, so one of the pillars of high performance is always do your best.
Yeah.
But that's your best on any given day. Your best on every day is different.
Very
Do you know what I
different.
mean? Like, you could wake up, you could be smothering with a head cold. Your best that day is not going to be your best on another day. Do you know what I mean?
And I think, you see, I think what happens is we take things personally. Just because a fella grunts at me doesn't mean he could have had a bad morning.
Yeah.
He could have had a bad night. He
Yeah.
could have had that. If I just allow that to be what it is, that's just how he is doing
Yeah.
this today, and not say, well, how dare you be rude to me?
Yeah. No,
Because
and I'd struggle with that
It's
now.
got very little to do with you.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's something I think has made working with people generally much easier.
Yeah,
Don't
I
take
read
it
the
personal.
book, The Four Agreements. I'd say you've read it as well.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
one of the agreements is don't take things personally. And it's probably the hardest chapter in the book, because for me anyway, because I suppose that, I don't know, that stupid macho thing, or I don't know what it is. I have a thing, if I say hello to people and they don't, they have a problem with me or something like that. But like what you say, you don't know what that person's having or dealing with in their own head. So,
And
but
if you don't carry it with you, it makes your day a lot
easier, yeah.
You know? And like, I had 3 maths classes on the trot today. I'm
Yeah.
not fit to talk to man or beast. But if I take the frustration off the first one into the second one,
Yeah,
I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to make the people in front of me miserable. We're going to have a miserable. Then I'm going to take the frustration of the second one, which was hit by the first one, into the third one. There's
Yeah.
a great film, Crash,
right.
and it's how random people have impacted on each other in their day, because we don't know what has gone before.
Yeah,
So if I go home then having been miserable and my own fault, going in like a narky, I'll divil to the next crowd. I go home then and I'm narky with my family because the dishwasher isn't emptied.
yeah,
Like, do you not think enough of me to even empty the dishwasher?
yeah,
Now, that never crossed anybody's mind at home.
yeah,
They didn't even know it was full. Do you know?
Yeah.
So that's, I think that I learned that. I suppose the chaplaincy course would have not that you learn it, but it shines a bit of a light on how I am interacting with the world.
right.
So that was something I did, and I was a much more judgmental person than I am now, because that's saying that me being judgmental is thinking that it's all about me, and this is not all about me.
Yeah,
You know, if I could even manage the bits that are just about me, I'd be doing fine. But trying to manage everybody else's bits about me is just not doable.
yeah,
So I think that makes the difference. If you just, this person is dealing with life in the way they're dealing with life.
So you haven't taught me in over 22 years, and they are now teaching me something again today, because that, honestly, sometimes you disappoint yourself because you do let people take the good out of you sometimes, and I have, my biggest mistake is I react far better than I wish I didn't. I'm consciously trying not to. So, but even down to that, like, that's a teaching in its own right, and how.
But your day can be your if you just thought about how your day would improve if you didn't take every interaction personally.
Yeah.
If it's, for me, the child didn't do his homework not to annoy me. There's no child planning at home, I'm going to make life miserable for that one tomorrow.
No, I didn't know that in school because I did do the homework. I generally done it before the class. But
But I think that's the I don't know. I suppose I've done an awful lot of weird things. I went back to college in my 50s and I did my doctorate.
Yeah.
And I did a doctorate in education. And part of that is spite. Because of the people up along. I remember one woman telling me mother, Grainne's grand, she'll get a nice little job in a shop. That was a teacher's comment
Right.
at a parent-teacher meeting to my mother.
You don't have to name and shame that teacher,
No,
but you know who you are.
I think there might be law. But there's only 10 levels of learning,
Yeah.
and I have a 10.
Right.
And I would have been in school with somebody.
Did you get a massive sense of pride when you got that?
I tell you what I got. My kids came to the graduation, and it was just extraordinary.
Right.
I'm going to crow another little bit now. I did it in 4 years flat,
Right.
which is unusual.
Right.
And I had surgery for skin cancer in the middle of
Oh,
it.
Jesus, I didn't know that.
I'm very lucky. I've had cancer twice, but surgery has fixed them both.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky I didn't have after that. But you see, that's the thing. You can. It's just a hoop you jump. And I was lucky. We were talking about connecting. You get very caught in your own little world, and these are the only people you see. Every time I've gone and done something new, I've met a new circle of people.
Yeah.
So I met a new circle doing the doctorate. 4 of us, old cronies. We met the first day asking genuinely, what are we doing here? Very different women. We were looking for a coffee. We found a coffee machine in the basement.
Yeah.
And we were all going, what the hell are we doing here? And that day we made a WhatsApp group. That day we started looking after each other.
Created a connection.
And all the way through, we all checked each other as it worked. We read each other. When we were at that low ebb where we said, I can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
The others were there to say, come on, put your big girl pants on now and get home with it. I have a friend, an American friend of mine, she always says, put your big girl pants on.
Our American accent is dodgy now.
Very dodgy, but Letitia will forgive me. But that's it, So the doctorate was supposed to be on how the brain works, but I couldn't too difficult to experiment on people. Yeah. So I went to look at how learning works, how teachers, what they perceive about learning and assessment.
Right.
But it always, I suppose the weird thing is it all connects back. I was telling you about my dad knowing I had an issue with learning, so he sent me to Tony Bazan, who was all about the mind and all about how flexible the mind is, which led me to get me teaching, which led me into teaching. The understanding that people learn differently made me a reasonable teacher, because I understand why I don't understand. And then it led me back to doing the doctorate in teaching and learning. Because I think that's the crux of things, is that our brain is plastic.
Yeah.
And you can change a habit.
Right.
And that's it. It's ridiculously simple. I'm not saying it's simple. It's so hard to change a habit. But to know that you can, but you have to do something, differently. That's your cognitive triangle again. You have to make the change.
We had a saying in high performance that it takes 21 days to build a habit and it takes 2 to break the habit. So that was obviously in relation to a training cycle, that you are what you do, but it makes sense for everything.
But we know all that. We are what we do. We are, what's that Aristotle's one? We are what we repeatedly do. That's as old as Methuselah. And if you think about what you repeatedly do, so if I repeatedly take everything personal, then I'm going to get very inward and angry at the world. Yeah. So if I break that habit and I say to myself, that person is doing the best that they can today, because I don't know what that brought that person here. Like I often say to the kids, I don't come out of the wardrobe in school at 10 to 9 and go back into it at 4 o'clock. Like I have a life in between.
Yeah.
But so do all of them. And that was the good thing about COVID. I was doing maths one morning and one of the lads says, hold on there, miss, till I get into the loader. I go, he says, hold on till I get into the loader. I says, what are you doing in a loader? It's like, that's like, he says, he was feeding the cows. So that was his job in the morning. So he turned on his camera and he showed us the cows he was feeding. And then one of the other girls, they were sheep farming. And she was telling us about lambing. But there were all windows onto those people's lives that none of the other students would have had. That chap is up, and lots of chaps in front of me are up in the morning at 5 and 6 o'clock to
Get
farm
to work
before they
though.
come in.
Yeah.
And there's lots of people that are going home from one job in the evening to maybe a caring job. Maybe they're looking after a parent or a child, or do you know? And you have to say that beyond the window of what you see is a whole other life that you're not privy to, and you've no right to be privy to it. But you do have to respect it.
Yeah.
So that's everybody's doing the best they can today. So now that's not to say I forgave everybody everything. I gave out notes today because people they were stopping other people learning. That's the only bar I have now.
Yeah.
I don't care what, I'm not really interested in behaviour in class up to the point where it stops somebody else from learning.
Yeah.
Because my mum came from 20 foot from the sea. I've photographs of first. In bare feet, there was 9 girls. They had nothing.
Yeah.
But what Granny had was an understanding that education was the key. Education was the key to freedom. And every one of those 9 girls is a nurse or a teacher.
Right.
Every one of them. And what she had to do to make that happen was extraordinary.
Yeah.
You know? But it was the key to freedom. And I firmly believe that. I work in the night school on a Monday night. And all those people coming in.
You're not principal of that or vice principal?
No,
then
just well, they call us assistant principals now, but it's just to make you feel better.
All right, sorry.
But it doesn't mean that so we all are. So it's the new, you know, the way that this middle management to make you feel like you're actually moving up the scale, but you're not really.
Okay. But I think the night school is something that you'd be unbelievable at as well. I do, and we both have a faith, and mine is very strong, and yours is very strong, and might not be necessarily the same. And that's what I always say to people. I believe faith is a very personal thing. It's no one else's business, but I believe it's a nice thing. And faith is believing in something we can't see, but believing. And I think we need that. But I do think we're all on a path, and like mine has taken so many different directions, and will continue to take him, and I let myself down, and hopefully I'll pick myself back up, and I'll continue to fall and to get up and to fall and to get up. But I think you were predestined to be a teacher, like, and not maybe from the educational point, even though you have a doctorate in it, but from the personal point, like you reach far more people than you'll ever know from teaching.
But I think you look back on your life and you see people that was a really important moment for you. Like I have people who taught me in school who were just golden. They gave me a confidence in myself that I wouldn't have had without them. I was very blessed with parents. I could have had parents who didn't understand that I could do things differently.
Yeah.
You know? I've been blessed with, everywhere you go you find someone that lifts you up another bit. But I think you have to be open to that. And it can be anybody. Like sometimes, you know, you come into school, like or work, wherever you are, and you say when you come back after losing, I remember the child who hung back after class to say, "I'm sorry for your loss, miss."
Yeah.
And none of the others did, not because they didn't, but because they maybe hadn't the confidence
to step back and do it.
But the fact that fella stayed back
meant a massive amount.
Massive, and he's no idea what that meant. But that you were your journey or your trauma or your pain was recognized by another human being.
Yeah.
You know, even, and like, we knock into people all day in work. Like, we don't make that connection. And I think that's what traps us. And every time you try something new, there is the fear of it not going right. And there is the fear of falling on your face. And this imposter syndrome. I had that for 4 years. I had that walking up to collect a bit of paper. Because you're waiting for someone to realise that you're in the wrong room, you know, that you haven't got the smarts or that. But we need to understand that everybody feels. I felt that when I sat the driving test. I felt that when I was pregnant having kids. And then I thought, jeepers, everybody else can do this.
Yeah.
I can do this. But I think the mistake we make is thinking that it's easy for somebody else. And no matter who they are around you, they've had their own
Everyone has something. Yeah.
And I think back to the other thing, we very rarely share. Like, again, I've been very blessed to have people in my life who tell me the truth,
Yeah.
who tell me when they're struggling, or whom I can tell when I'm struggling.
I think that says more about you though, because you're someone that I think there's the safety in talking to you. I always found even in school that I don't know, you can look at you, you can trust, you have a very trusting face. And look, I idolised you in school. You were brilliant to me and to the lads as well.
But you must see that because you understand why is that people can talk to you in a way they couldn't talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
Do you know? And I think that's a gift you don't realise how powerful it is. That somebody can come to you in their brokenness and know you're not going to dance all over it.
Yeah.
Like that is, and that's what being, if you want to be Christian to each other, or if you want to be decent to each other, it's recognizing everybody's a bit broken, but I'm going to mind it for you.
Yeah.
I'm not going to break it anymore. Now, I'm not saying it's not going to be painful putting bits back together, but it is. But it's trusting someone with your brokenness. There's a lovely, Leonard Cohen is one of my great time fellas, and he has a saying, it's a love so vast and shattered, it can reach anywhere. And that whole idea that it's in brokenness that we're able to give to each other.
Right.
When you recognise your brokenness.
Yeah.
So
I have a lovely saying that I said, well, it's not a love, I robbed it. Genuine. I'm from Willow Park. You have to remember I'm able to rob. I'm a guard actually. Sorry, I'm a backup on that one. But if you have a pint glass, if you imagine your life as a pint glass, right, and you put the pint glass underneath a tap, and that tap is dripping, and every drip of water that goes in is a bit of trauma, and all of us carry trauma differently, and we all have different trauma. Your trauma obviously could have been through your difficulties learning. My trauma could have been from not getting picked on a team or something. Like, everyone has different things. You're arguing, going home to a abusive household, whatever it is. We all have trauma. And eventually, that pint glass starts to overflow. And what I always say to people in the workshops with MBK is that we have to find a safe way of emptying the pint glass. So we're down here in Ballymoney Beach, purely because I asked Miss Mulcahy where she would like to go, because somewhere that gives you peace. And obviously Galway was where you requested, but I don't have the money to bring you there. So no, but this is beautiful, and this could be your emptying the glass. You know what I mean?
It is my emptying the glass, and I'll tell you how. I think if what's the weight, and I see the wave coming in, and as the wave pulls out, I let the weight go out with it.
Yeah.
So the waves are pulling away those bits. And like, the thing about trauma too is, you think you get over a bit, but then something triggers it again. And it's people often ask me, I did some work in grief, and people always, when does it get better? And I go, well, I don't know, because it gets better when you get better carrying it.
Right.
Like,
you get stronger.
It's like a scar. It's always going to be there. You just pay it less attention sometimes. And grief has an awful habit of coming back to beat you up.
Yeah.
And one of the studies is, one of the greatest causes of depression is unresolved grief. Now, if anyone knows how to resolve grief.
No, and I won't lie to you. I'm in my dark month, I suppose. I have a dark, well, it shouldn't be a dark month, but November is a month I'd struggling since Colin passed away. So yeah, I think you're right though. I don't think grief goes away. I think you do get stronger, and then like that there'll be something that'll hit you a little kick in the knees and knock you down.
I think it's like a lot of things. You have to take it out and look at it sometimes. And like I often say to the youngsters that I work with that are kind of struggling, I'd say, well, could you decide not to deal with that now? That's something, because you can't carry anxiety with you all day. I can understand your anxiety. You're worried now and you're anxious. But could you decide that we're going to deal with that at this point and just get on with doing the bit of maths or the bit of science now? Because carrying it all the time is weighing you down and killing you. So sometimes you have to take out the trauma or the grief and look at it. Now, to do that with somebody is powerful, that they're going to let you share it, not maybe tell you how to fix it, But someone for whom you can be small and broken, and there's no judgment, and they're not gonna, oh my God, I didn't know she was that broke up.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Another safe way of emptying the glass.
It's a safe way of emptying the glass. I've always reckoned when I'm angry and I don't think I fling stones as hard as far into the sea as I can. And sometimes I put a name on the stone.
Yeah.
Because you have to leave stuff behind you. But one of my strongest...
But you're identifying that issue.
You're naming it. And the other thing I did some great courses. I did some healing holistic courses. And I did a course with a chap.
This is a woman that's dyslexic, and all she does is get qualifications. I don't know what it is.
But it's the curiosity of life, you know, and how did people solve that? But it was about hexing and cursing and blessing. And the strongest thing we have back in our history is salt.
Right.
Bless salt. And they bless salt every Saturday night, every Easter. They bless salt. And if you're in a country parish, Murphy's is great. You just pay in the shop and they put the salt cellar up in the church for you. You just have to bring it home with you. But blessed salt is centuries old in healing and cleansing. Yeah. And I would bless with salt. Right. I bless my house with salt. I bless myself with salt. I have a little jar on my desk, and sometimes I write things on it that are getting in on me, and I put it in the salt. Because I'm taking it out of here and putting it in there. And the healing power of salt, like it's massive in Christian tradition, but way back in Celtic tradition and way beyond, like salt is massive. Right. And it's about that moment when you recognize that this is hurting me, this is crippling me, this is stopping me being the person I could be. So it's change the habit, take it out and deal with it. You know, but the big thing is you're not the only person crippled. Yeah. We're all crippled in one way or another.
We're all carrying something.
We're all carrying something, and if you dig around in anyone for a little while, you know, you'll find it. And I think that to find the ways that move you forward. And all the joke is, are you finished studying yet? And I said, I don't know. Because there will be something out there that makes me curious, and that's the joy in life.
When you get intrigued, you get interested in something.
And you want to find it out.
That again, like we were saying, that's one of the pillars, the 5 pillars of well-being, I suppose. One is to give, one is to connect. Like I said, this actual physical connection.
To notice and
take notice.
And I think one of the things, if you the other thing is, you know, you can't hold 2 thoughts at the same time. So if I'm busy worrying about being anxious, and I'm getting really good at worrying because I'm spending so much, I'm not allowing anything else in. So if I move into something physical, so if I just put on your phone for a minute and count the waves that come in a minute, that's moved your head for 1 minute into counting. Because you can't count the waves and have your brain off worrying at the same time.
It's a brilliant tip.
That's the taking the notice. And when you're in the car, instead of worrying about what's ahead of you in school, which I used to do, worry about all kinds of rubbish, I noticed the way the trees have changed. I've noticed this morning that there's more trees gone without their leaves. There's trees that have orange and yellow and some with green leaves. It's all a bit, because what noticing does is it moves you out of the worry hole that you're in. Because your brain, you have your 3 parts to your brain. Your middle brain is the anxious worry bit. And you need to move upstairs to the upstairs brain. Right. The upstairs brain is the bit that thinks. It's the bit that counts. It's the bit that will set the phone for a minute and count the waves coming in. That's up here, and that turns down the volume on the downstairs upset, anxious brain. That's
a brilliant tip, especially for anyone going into exams right now.
I was working with a young lad this morning, and we were just talking about feelings, and we have to find a way of distracting yourself long enough for a breath. It's like turning the tap off on that drip. And the way you do that is move out of your busy head into the physical world. So you're what you can touch, what you can see, what you can taste. Like you can smell the sea here. It's amazing. what can you hear? You know, you can hear the sea, but you can hear the grass behind you. You can hear people walking. You can hear the dog. You know,
Yeah.
I was watching the dog running up and down there with not thought in his head except running.
Yeah.
But why can't I just run without a thought in my head?
Yeah.
So you moving yourself from this downstairs overthinking swamp that you're in to just the physical world is hugely powerful, and that's the disconnecting from the thinking. That's the mindfulness, that's the meditation, that's and like all the studies again at the brain part, that lower part of your brain is turned down, and the happy part of your brain, the hippocampus, which is the next bit up here, that grows when you do mindfulness and gratitude. But it doesn't work if you just do it once in a while.
I think gratitude is probably the most powerful emotion in the world. Isn't it?
It's huge, and it's so good. And I was looking at brain scans. Yeah, because I've nothing else to do. I was looking at, because what does it do to your brain? You know how, and gratitude changes your brain, because you know you can be grateful. I'm at the stage now where I'm a bit creaky in the morning. A day I can walk without pain in my feet is brilliant.
Yeah.
You don't have to be grateful for huge things.
Yeah. Small thing.
It's the small things. I brought in, we had tea this morning, 6 years. I stopped for milk at Vicky's on the way in. Sure, isn't that sharing a cup of tea with a crowd of people this morning? How good is that?
Yeah, no, it's lovely.
Do you know? And it doesn't have to. I remember the biggest thing when my mom passed away, and I would talk about this when I do some work. I say, on the worst day of my life, my neighbours came in to the kitchen. They took over everything. They made the tea. One of the women did the shopping, and she put down a packet of Panadol. She says, you might want them later. Now, it didn't change the awfulness of what the day brought,
Yeah.
but the kindness of those people, the gratitude that filled me, just tempered the trauma. And when I think back on the days, those little things, they're like a storehouse.
Yeah.
It's like having a treasure trove. And if you thought in your day, the things I was grateful for today, the tea with the 6 years this morning was good crack. There was good crack with the lads. There was a bit banter with them. There was one of my colleagues threw her head round the door. She didn't see me down in the staff room at lunchtime. I was trying to get a bit
Keep
of work.
an eye on you.
But she threw the head around the door.
Yeah.
So grateful for that.
Yeah.
And they're things that if you weren't looking for them, you'd never notice to
Yeah.
be grateful for them. So it's about training yourself to look, do you know?
Yeah.
Like I haven't gone for a walk after school, I'd say, in 3 years. And here I am on the beach.
Yeah.
A place I couldn't be in a happier place. So to be grateful for the invitation, but to be grateful, to be aware that that is a good thing.
Yeah. No, it's powerful.
And just opening your head a bit, you know. That doesn't mean that I'm not going to be a grumpy old bat tomorrow, but
Yeah.
like,
Well, I don't ever remember you being grumpy. Maybe you are, but I was drunk for most of it. So
when there was a day you took off down the back pitch, and I don't know who was, must have been Mr. Duke. He said, I know where you are, lads, because you all still had the high vis jackets.
I told you we weren't the cleverest students of all time. But what I'll say to you is, well, we were talking earlier about, like, I firmly believe that you're in a job that you get the opportunity to make someone's life better every day, and I'm lucky I'm in a job that does the same. And I found with the workshops that, look, they're going really well, and if one person gets something from them, I'm really happy. And I was lucky the other day, like you, I robbed something on you as well, you know, but well, I asked permission, so it's not robbery.
Well, I probably robbed it before you.
But the cognitive behavioural triangle. So I was explaining that to a young fella during the week. Our thoughts lead into our feelings, and our feelings lead into our behaviours, and our behaviours feed into our thoughts again. And you showed me how easy it is to change that direction.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think simple things like that,
I think
I'm very grateful. And
knowing you have a bit of control to change, and the easiest thing to change is the behaviour. So instead of going home from school and having a coffee and moping about midday,
yeah,
you know, if you came out to the beach, it's that power that you have to change. But a behaviour is it's hard to change the way you're thinking, and it's hard to
Yeah.
change the way you're feeling. We know that.
I done a peer supporting course with the guards actually, and the woman that was delivering the course, there's another chap actually. I think you'd love Stephen Dalton's his name. He's an amazing man. He's head of the well-being in on Garda Síochána, but he's an absolute gentleman, a lovely fella. I couldn't speak highly enough of him, to be honest with you. And he taught me a good bit around mindfulness and stuff like that. But this woman was talking, and she said like that. Not every day is going to be a good day, and like what you said, your behaviour and how you're thinking. But she says your family doesn't deserve that. You know what I mean? So she has a tree she's picked. And when she's had a bad day, she'll park beside the tree and she'll get out and she'll hit the tree a couple of kicks. Do you know what I mean? And I just think that's an amazing thing, because,
It is.
like you writing your name on the stone and throwing it into the sea, you've identified that behaviour. You're aware. It's a self-awareness that, right, this is not a good feeling. This is probably why I'm walking away from drink at the minute as well, because I know I don't have that self-awareness when I'm drinking. Do you know that way? So, yeah, I think that self-awareness and learning how to deal with things, and learning, again, like that pint glass. I love that analogy of emptying that pint glass in a safe way. And obviously for me, it's always been exercise and fitness and probably fighting. I'm probably one of the few humans in the world that gets solace out of getting punched in the face, but I miss it massively.
Yeah.
My face is improving as a result of it. My nose won't get straighter, but the head is not getting worse, I suppose. But I think it's all down to finding that safety, isn't it? That safe way of dealing with that trauma,
And
that behaviour, I suppose.
it's true for every single person. There is nobody, and you might look at people thinking they have it all sorted,
Yeah,
and none of us have. No one has it sorted. But I think you can be lucky. I consider myself lucky along my life. I've met amazing people who were there when I needed them. Do you know? The more than yourself. But I think you have to be able to be a bit self-aware. Maybe you found that with the mindfulness.
yeah,
It lets you take a step back and have a look. So if something is wrecking your head every day, what is it? Do you know? But if you're so caught up in it, you can never see it. So maybe with taking that bit of space to identify the thing in your life, and then if you don't take a step to change that, you don't like the pain you're in.
yeah.
So knowing that you could take a step to change that, what then is stopping you? Now, there's a $100 question, isn't it?
No,
What's
but
stopping
still.
us? But that self-awareness that you get, I suppose I got that from mindfulness, being in the moment, and I suppose that's the other thing. Like, we race through our day as though we want to get over everything.
Rush through it nearly, yeah.
Like when I slow down and I like the maths class with the kids because I'm present with the kids now. I know them all.
Yeah,
And rather than trying to get this over with, oh dear God, I have to go in here and talk to this guy. It's the same in any piece of work. I'm very lucky. I enjoy what I'm doing now because I'm consciously present at it while I'm doing it. And I think that, like, if you can be consciously present while you're cooking, then your head is not at 6 million other things, worrying or annoying or fretting or being anxious. You're just frying off a bit of steak.
yeah,
So smell the steak, feel the steak, look at the colour of the peppers you're cutting in. It's about the being present. And the most important thing is being present to another person, because we all know what it feels when someone sees us. Like when a chap looks up and he's lost in the middle of something and you can say, "Are you all right?"
yeah.
Do you know? That's everything. And that's to be in the present. So we've spent our life trying to get from one end of the year to the other without actually going, well, you know, this little bit is okay. And the bits that aren't okay, to know that this too will pass.
Yeah,
But that what's given me great joy in the, I suppose it's only been as I got older I could see it, and I look at my mother now and I think, oh, I should have given her more credit.
Yeah.
She shut out things that disrupted her, and she was 100% present for the things that were important.
Well, that leads me on to probably we're going back long now, anyhow. But yeah, that's massive. But what I will say on that, I'd say is that takes time to realise that. I suppose it takes time to understand that you can do that.
I'm coming at a time in life when I'm looking back on a lot more that's behind me than is in front of me.
Yeah.
And it is true that, you know, when you're looking back, you get perspective, you know.
Yeah.
And I was tough when I was started teaching, because I didn't know any different.
Right.
I was tough as a young mum, and I was hard on the youngsters because I was juggling a lot. It's not that I, you know, because I didn't have time to stop and think.
Yeah.
So at this point in my life, you know, you kind of every decade leads you to another point. I'm heading into a new decade next year. You know, they are better. I think you're less critical of yourself.
You're kinder to yourself, maybe.
You are, yeah.
There's
also, you've learned.
I've like I said, my lad's 7, so he hasn't the same love of cartoons as I do, but I'm forced him, and he's my excuse for it. So, but I love. There's a saying in, I think it's Kung Fu Panda. The past is there for a reason. Is to look back and see how far you've come.
Yeah.
The future is unknown and isn't certain, but the present is called the present because it's a gift, and we have to live in the present, I suppose.
And I think we spend, like, I'm blessed. I'm so blessed. I love teaching. I go. Someone was asking me today, "Are you not retiring?" I said, "No, I really stay. I'm so blessed. I like the job."
You're brilliant at it as well.
But I don't know that. I think you can be happy at anything if you bring. We were down to that. You know, peace is a well you have to have for yourself. But I think if you can get your head to a point where you enjoy this minute, we all have people around us who are lovely. Maybe we haven't noticed.
Yeah.
We all have things around us that we could be maybe grateful for that we haven't noticed. And
right. So we're nearly back to the start, right? And I cut you off there. I'm sorry about that.
You're all right.
So with these, and I think you've watched a few. So with these, I like to finish up with a couple of weird questions, right? So what would you say to a young Grainne, 15, 16 years of age? What advice would you give to that young person now?
Stop worrying.
Stop worrying.
It'll be all right. It'll work out.
Brilliant.
Because I was a very dark 15-year-old.
Right.
Yeah, I was a very too much thinking. And I would say I worry less. It'll be all right. It'll work itself out.
Brilliant.
You're enough.
And then to finish up on, for anyone looking at this and like that, I think this one with yourself and will hit different people, different age groups, different.
The older bracket, maybe?
No, but teachers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A lot of people that wouldn't possibly hit into the other thing. And my whole thing is the positive effects of being active. Like, so we've just walked the beach. We've just had a lovely chat. And I'd say we both feel better. Do you know
absolutely.
what I mean? So, but have you any advice for someone maybe struggling now in your position? Because I know that in your position, not yours because you're going to continue working, but for someone maybe coming up to retirement, is that unknown piece? What happens next?
There's always a big fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? And I think for a lot of people, if you've taken your identity from what you do, then leaving that can be really hard.
Right.
So if I'm not a teacher, who am I?
Yeah.
You know, and again, when your kids leave home, if I'm not a parent, who am I?
Yeah.
You know? So
I never thought of it.
There's all of those times in life when, because I was working with groups of farmers there lately, and one of the young lads, he was saying is if a farmer identifies with the land and they don't have their land anymore, then who are they?
Right.
And that made me think about those, what am I? I think back to the faith thing. I now have faith that whatever is ahead will be fine. I'll be all right with it.
Yeah.
And I've done so many different things in life because I take a chance. I'm working for a business school at the minute, because they asked me to do a bit of research, and I said fine. And like, there's no harm in trying something. And if it's not for you, leave it and do something else.
So your advice is to keep pushing.
Keep pushing. And when somebody asks you out, or go.
Yeah.
Because you know yourself, people stop asking.
Yeah.
Do you know? And when someone asks you, would you give this a try, or would you go? There's loads of stuff on in the night school, from soap making to yoga.
Yeah.
Like, even if you don't like the soap making, you might like the 2 or 3 people sitting around you laughing about the smell of the soap.
Yeah.
You know? So I think that's the keeping connected with the world and with people. It's when you lock yourself in and you close the door on the world, then your world gets smaller and smaller. So, like, I'm hoping that I'll be into my 80s and still doing something I didn't do before.
I'd say you will. 1,000,000%, I'd say.
But I think and they should see the people. It just gives me such a buzz to see the people coming in to night school, to do all this. We've just finished up with a biodiversity course, and one of the people coming in there, Joe might be saying she was an elderly lady, but like, what amazing to be coming in your 70s, to find out about your local biodiversity.
That's deadly, all right.
You know, so like there's things there, and it's hard, and I'm not saying it's easy to put yourself forward, but you can rock up to a course, not know anyone. It's structured, so you don't have to think about it.
Yeah.
But if you have friends that you haven't seen for a while, and that's the other thing, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
And make a decision that's not going to be a text, that you are going to meet in Brown's at.
Yeah.
Or a woman I worked with years ago, we met, she made my wedding dress. Like, we were that close pals. I haven't seen her since her son's first Holy Communion.
Right.
So that's it. We just made the date.
And went.
And she was wondering, Jesus, what will she be like? I was wondering, Jesus, what will she be like? And we were exactly the same as we always were.
Yeah.
Do you know?
Yeah, well, good friends you'll pick up like you were never away from each other.
So I think there are things in your hands to do. And if you're the person who can be the organizer, well, then go and organize a few.
Yeah.
If you have a friend who hasn't been out, come on, put on the runners and go for that walk.
Yeah.
I'll be round to your house be ready. Do you know? And like, you don't know what huge difference that might make to somebody.
Yeah, fact.
And it's only tiny.
No, but it is tiny, but like what you said, we never know what that could be. That like what I was saying, when the camera wasn't on, I met a man came in about two weeks after this day, and he wanted to meet me and talk to me, and I came up. I had no idea. I thought, yes, have I given this lad a ticket or something, which is highly unlikely, but have I? And just said, I want to let you know something. And I said, you waved at me. I said, all right, yeah. I have a thing, if I make eye contact with someone, I have to say hello. I don't know, it's probably a nervous tick with me, right? But I made eye contact with him and I waved at him, and he was walking down towards the sea, and his plan, he had made the decision in his head that his life wasn't going the direction he wanted. He was done with it, and unless someone actually made him feel like his life was worthwhile, he was gone. So that one little thing, do you know what I mean? And you picking up the phone and organising that with someone, that could be that one little thing. So we never know.
You never know. You never know. And it's like saying hello to people and asking someone, are they all right?
Yeah.
Or can I help you with that?
Right. To finish then, right, because we're back at cars, give us one nugget or one piece of gold that is going to make somebody feel way better this evening.
You are loved and you're enough.
Brilliant. But on that one, I'm going to give her a hug because I idolise this woman.
Thank
You were loved and you were enough. I think we all need to realise
you
that
need
and
to know
remember
it.
at a time.
Know it, and it's true. Yeah, you know, it's the thing that we most won't say to ourselves.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and it's so true. And you go through your life thinking that you're not, but you are. And sure, if this doesn't work, there's something else with.
Exactly.
You probably get a better speaker next week.
No. Well, it's hard to get a better speaker than this woman. The first 20 minutes got knocked off because I hadn't pressed record, and we've done an hour and 5 minutes. Grainne, thanks a million.
Thank you so much. Good luck with it all.